They forgot her name before the semester even ended. At the university, the girls called her Miss Mudfoot behind her back. The boys laughed when her stomach growled in the middle of class. Nobody asked where she came from. Nobody cared. But long ago, in the quiet district of Ajub, her name, Ibier, was carved in dust with proud fingers, whispered with hope, and carried like a prayer on market winds. Ajub was a place of cracked cement and old radios. There was only one road leading in, and the same road led out. Boys there became mechanics, barbers, or Okada riders. Girls sold roasted plantain, learned to braid, or married early. Nobody spoke of universities because they didn't know anyone who had ever seen one. Dreams in Ajub had to shrink to survive. But on one unusual Tuesday, a long, shiny bus painted in blue rolled into Ajub. On the side, it said the Bright Future Tour. Out stepped 12 students from Port Harcourt. Neat hair, polished shoes, backpacks with zippers that actually worked. They came for rural engagement, but to Ajub, they were something else. They were stars. The villagers gathered. Women stopped pounding yam. Men paused mid-spanner. Children followed the students like shadows. The students spoke about university life, how classes had microphones, how you could drink water from the tap, how you could become a doctor or an engineer. Their words danced like music in the air, but only one girl dared to believe the song was meant for her. Her name was Ibier. She was 17. She had never worn a wristwatch. She had never touched a computer. But that day, when a soft-spoken student named Felicia handed her a pamphlet from Rivers State University, something cracked open inside her chest. That night, under the mosquito net, Ibier whispered to her grandmother, "Mama, I want to go there." Her grandmother coughed from the corner. "Go where?" "To the place with microphones and zippers and tap water. You think they'll let you in with your bare foot and one pair of clothes?" Ibier was quiet. Then she said the most dangerous thing a poor girl can say. "I want to try." The next weeks in Ajub were like a storm of hope. The church announced a fundraiser. The youth group sold water sachets. A teacher from the local school walked from house to house with a list, saying, "Just 100 Nigerian nairas. Let's help our daughter reach the sky." Little by little, coins became notes. Bags of rice became transport fare. Mama F offered her Sunday wrapper. Uncle Jaja sold a small goat. Ibier's grandmother braided her hair with oil and tears. "Don't let the city eat you," she whispered as they hugged at the junction. "I won't," Ibier promised. She boarded the bus, holding a basket of dry gari, 2 shirts, and the entire belief system of Ajub. But the city did not smile at her. Port Harcourt hit her like a slap. The air smelled like smoke and oil. Her lodge was the back of a crumbling building with one window and no lock. Her roommates laughed when she unwrapped her food in banana leaves. At registration, the official asked for her email. She didn't have one. She didn't even have a phone. Everywhere she went, someone called her Bush Girl. In lectures, she was silent. At night, she went to bed hungry. One day, a lecturer asked her a simple question. She stood to answer, and someone behind her hissed, "Go back to the village." Her ears rang. Her cheeks burned. She stopped raising her hand after that. She washed people's clothes to survive. Sometimes, she sold zobo near the boys' hostel, praying no one from her class saw her. She missed home. She missed silence. She missed having a name. But the worst part was the shame. How do you tell people who raised money for you that you're failing? That your clothes smell? That you've started selling noodles from your room just to eat? One evening, while pouring rain drowned the gutters, a girl walked past her with an umbrella that sparkled like television. The girl wore heels, long lashes, and perfume that smelled expensive. Her name was Zara. She looked like a city goddess. "You're Ibier, right?" Zara asked. Ibier froze. "Yes. I've seen you washing clothes." That's strength. Not everyone can survive here. It was the first kind word she'd heard in months. Zara became her only friend. She was mysterious. She never stayed in class long. She had 3 phones and never explained where her money came from. She always had food, and she always smelled good. One night, Ibier fainted from hunger. Zara found her. She brought rice, fish, and juice. Ibier cried as she ate. "I'm tired," she whispered. "I can't keep begging and washing socks." Zara placed a soft hand on hers. Then stop living like a beggar. But what else can I do? Zara stared at her, eyes deep like a hole that had no bottom. Then she said, I'll show you if you're ready. Ibier did not answer that night, but her sleep was full of fire and fear. She dreamt of a job, the road, her grandmother, the goat, the wrapper, the offering plate. All of it was watching her, judging her, whispering the name they gave her, the name that was now fading. The next day, she followed Zara to a tall hotel with golden lights and thick curtains. The lobby smelled like cigars and danger. Men in suits walked past without looking. Ibier's legs shook. She looked down at her worn sandals. This is where the money is, Zara whispered. One night could feed you for weeks. Ibier turned to run, but the rain outside was heavy, and her stomach was empty. Zara smiled. Just once. Nobody back home has to know. That night, Ibier did not sleep. She sat on her thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. Her room was dark, but she could still see the face of the man. The money on the table, the lipstick on her lips, the pain in her belly. She picked up her mirror and almost screamed. Her eyes looked like they didn't belong to her. She told herself she would never do it again. But hunger came like a lion the next week. Her period stopped. Her dreams faded. Her phone buzzed with messages from men. Zara began calling her Ibi. She no longer answered when people said Ibier. The city was swallowing her name, one note at a time. The first time Ibier heard her real name again, it came from the lips of a small boy selling groundnuts. He stood outside her hostel gate, barefoot, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. Auntie Ibier, he said, unsure. She froze. No one had called her that in almost a year. Not since she started wearing wigs that itched. Not since she learned how to walk in high heels and lie with her smile. I'm not the one, she muttered, pushing past him. But the name stuck to her like sand in her ears. Ibier had changed. She wore red lipstick now, the kind that didn't smudge. Her nails were long and sharp. Her skirts were tight and her voice softer. She no longer stood at the back in class. In fact, she barely attended anymore. Why should she? Lecturers barely knew her name, and the streets paid faster than any certificate. Zara's world became hers. A hidden world of dim lounges, perfume-soaked cars, and men who didn't care to ask where she came from. They gave cash, hotels, shoes, and pain that sank under the skin. Zara taught her everything. How to laugh at old men's jokes, how to pretend you liked champagne, and how to smile while your soul bled. At first, it felt like power, but the power didn't last. It started with small things. Her chest felt heavy in the morning. Her legs ached for no reason. Her stomach swelled, not the way food does, but like something was pressing out from the inside. She went to a clinic. The nurse frowned after the test. This is not pregnancy, she said. It's something else. They ran blood tests. They checked her liver. One doctor said it might be a parasite. Another said spiritual attack. A third just shook his head. Young lady, he whispered, you should go home and see your people. Home. A job. The word felt like it belonged to a past life. Her friends stopped calling. Zara said she was too busy to hang out. Ibier stopped going to lounges. She began hiding her face behind big sunglasses. Her belly grew. Her skin dulled. Her eyes looked haunted. When she walked, people moved away, like she carried something contagious. She tried to pray, but her words hit the ceiling and died. One night, she found herself in the campus chapel, crying alone. God, she whispered, if you're still there, please remember me. She didn't know if he heard, but someone else did. The next morning, a woman with gray braids knocked on her door. She introduced herself as Auntie Didi from a local church. I saw you yesterday in chapel, she said gently. You look like someone who used to have light in her. Ibier wanted to slam the door, but something in the woman's voice stopped her. Come, Auntie Didi said. Let's go and eat. I'll listen. They sat in a corner restaurant. Ibier hadn't eaten properly in days. Her hand shook as she held a spoon. When she finally spoke, it came out in gasps. I didn't mean to become this. I was just hungry. Auntie Didi placed her hand on Ibier's. You're not the first. The city breaks many girls. But it's not the end. Ibier began to sob. Loud. Ugly. The restaurant owner stared. But Auntie Didi didn't let go. We need to take you home, she said softly. The city has taken too much. Ibir refused at first. How can I go back like this? She cried. What will I tell Mama? The elders? The people who gave me their goat and rice and wrapper. But her body gave her no choice. One rainy night, she collapsed in front of her hostel. People screamed. She's dying. A stranger picked her up. Another grabbed her phone and dialed the last number she had saved. It was Auntie Didi. 3 days later, a rusted bus drove into a jube with one silent passenger. Her hair was gone. Her lips were cracked. Her stomach was swollen unnaturally, like a curse blooming inside her. She wore no shoes, just hospital slippers, and she held a piece of paper that said, Ibiero Kilo discharged, referred for spiritual care. The village froze when they saw her. Old women dropped their buckets. Little children ran to hide. Even the pastor stopped mid-sermon when he saw her shadow by the church gate. Only one person moved. Her grandmother. Mama Okilo pushed through the shocked crowd, knees trembling, wrapper dragging on the sand. My child, she whispered, touching Ibir's face. Ibir dropped to her knees. I'm sorry, she cried. I lost my name in the city. Mama Okilo wept and held her close. We will find it again. The village elders gathered that night. The fire cracked in the middle of the circle. Mama Enefa, the oldest woman in a jube and keeper of old truths, stepped forward. She stared at Ibir, then at her swollen belly. This is not a sickness of the flesh, she said. This is the punishment of broken boundaries. The people gasped. But, Mama Enefa added, a jube does not throw away her children. A week of cleansing began. Ibir bathed in bitter herbs. She drank charcoal water. She slept on the floor. She confessed everything. Every lie. Every sin. Every night in a hotel room pretending to be someone else. She didn't hold back. Even when the women wept. Even when the men looked away. Even when the young girls listened wide-eyed, realizing city life wasn't all perfume and shoes. On the 7th night, under the mango tree, Ibir screamed. It was not a normal scream. It came from the deep place where pain lives. Blood soaked the mat beneath her. The women surrounded her, whispering prayers, holding her down. Then, just before dawn, a baby cried. A boy. Alive. Everyone stood still. Mama Enefa held the child and looked at Ibir. You have birthed your second chance, she said. But Ibir was too weak to speak. Tears ran down her cheeks. She knew the price she had paid. She knew the path she had walked. And she knew she would never walk it again. For many days after the birth, Ibir did not speak. She only watched her child breathe, watched the steam from the herbal porridge rise in the morning, watched the wind play with the edges of the mat where she lay. Her voice was still somewhere far inside her, buried beneath the city, the pain, the loss. But little by little, something started to shift. The village didn't look at her like before. There were no more whispers. The women brought warm water. The men nodded at her without shame. Even the children, once scared, now came near with small flowers they plucked from behind the church. And her grandmother, old, thin, and strong, sat beside her every night, peeling boiled yam and humming songs that smelled like home. You didn't die, Mama Okilo said one night. That means you still have work. Ibir stayed in a jube, at first, because her body demanded it. Her legs were too weak, her belly too sore, and the baby too young. But soon, she realized she didn't want to leave. The village, in its quiet way, was washing her clean. Not with water, but with time. She no longer painted her lips. She braided her hair the way her grandmother taught her, 3 thick rows, soft and slow. She wrapped her baby in an old wrapper and named him Tamuno, which means God knows. And every day, she walked barefoot to the tree at the edge of the village where no one disturbed her. It was there she fed him. It was there she started to laugh again, just a little. It was there, one early evening, she found her voice again, not in a shout, not in a speech. Just a whisper. I'm still here. Some things in the village had changed too. More girls now spoke of school with wide eyes. Parents asked questions about university. The church put a sign outside. Help one child, heal one nation. But Ibir didn't try to lead any movement. She didn't call attention to herself. She didn't speak on stages. She simply lived. She helped her grandmother with roasting maize by the roadside. She washed wrappers. She sang to her baby when the wind got loud. And sometimes she would look up at the sky and say nothing, just breathe, as if to say thank you without needing words. One afternoon, while she was rinsing cassava at the stream, a woman tapped her shoulder. It was Auntie Dee, the one who found her in the chapel months ago. "I came to see how your story ended," she said, smiling. Ibier wiped her wet hands on her wrapper. "It hasn't ended," she said. "I'm just resting inside it." They sat under a tree and shared roasted groundnuts. Dee looked at Tamuno, who was playing with leaves nearby. "He looks like a new beginning." Ibier nodded. "But he is not my escape," she said quietly. "He is my reminder." 2 seasons passed, then 3, then 4. The river behind Ajub rose and fell. The mango tree dropped fruit and grew again. And one day, Ibier stood at the edge of the same dusty road she once left with dreams in a nylon bag. But this time, she held no bag, just her son on her back, his arms wrapped around her shoulders like roots holding soil. A teacher from a community center in the next village had offered her a seat in a flexible adult learning program. Nothing fancy, no graduation gowns, no certificates on TV, just learning at her pace, among women with calloused hands and full hearts. She didn't go to chase degrees anymore. She went to remember her mind. Some people still whispered, "That's how villages are." She was the one, right? The girl that came back cursed. Yes, but look at her now. See how she walks. Who would have thought she would laugh again? And Ibier did laugh again. Not loudly, not all the time, but the kind of laugh that comes from knowing sorrow very well and choosing joy anyway. She never forgot the city. She never forgot the nights, the hotels, the mirror she couldn't look into. But she also never forgot her name. She had written it again, slowly, painfully, in dust and fire, in tears, and now in peace. One Harmattan evening, while sweeping the square, a little girl ran up to her. "Auntie I mean Sister Ibier," the girl corrected herself, out of respect. "Yes, my dear. Tell me again the story of how you became strong." Ibier looked at her. She sat under the mango tree, placed her broom down, lifted the child onto her lap, and began, not with drama, not with pity, just truth. And this time, she didn't cry when she told it. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again, but if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.